It's 2025. The Pentagon has just confirmed something the world did not expect. A second super squadron of F-16 jets is now operational in South Korea. For over 70 years, the Air Force has followed the same rule. A fighter squadron never holds more than 24 jets. But now that rule is broken. For the first time in history, a single squadron is packed with 31 powerful F-16s. This is not just a move of planes. It is a shift in the very rules of war. Think about the families who are now moved, the pilots who sleep only minutes away from the North Korean border. One wrong signal, one sudden order, and the sky could explode into flames. But here is the question: why now? Why would the Pentagon reveal this secret experiment at Osan Air Base, instead of keeping it in the dark? Because behind this decision lies a test so bold, it could reshape the way America fights its wars, and the way the world sees its power. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you will uncover how this one squadron could change air warfare forever. The story begins in October 2024. At first, it looked like nothing unusual. Only 9 jets, just 150 airmen. They were quietly pulled from Kunsan and sent to Osan Air Base. No speeches, no reporters, no celebrations. But that quiet move carried a secret, because inside Osan, history was about to change. For more than 70 years, the Air Force had one unshakable rule. A squadron of fighters meant 18 to 24 jets. That number had never been broken. It was balance. It was tradition. It was law. Until now, at Osan, the rule shattered. Suddenly, one squadron held 31 F-16s. That's nearly 40% larger than any unit before it. It was not routine. It was not normal. It was the birth of the super squadron. For the pilots, it felt like joining a new creature of war. For the families, it felt like fear pressed against the skin. They were moved overnight, told to settle near the most dangerous line on Earth, because Osan lies only 50 miles south of North Korea. Close enough that one rocket could strike in minutes. Close enough that one mistake could erase lives. Still, the Pentagon called the first test a victory. The squadron trained harder. It reacted quicker. It attacked sharper. The experiment worked. And instead of ending it, the Pentagon doubled down. But here's the hidden truth. This was never about numbers. It was about design. Could 31 jets act as one single weapon? Could they fight as one single fist? The answer was forming. This was not expansion. It was an experiment in future war. And that leaves one burning question. Why here? Why risk America's first super squadron at the world's hottest border? Osan Air Base is not just another base. It is a front line, a place where every minute can decide peace or war. Because Osan sits only 50 miles from the North Korean border. From there, an F-16 can launch and be over enemy targets in just minutes. That speed is not convenience. It is deterrence. Every second counts when you face a nation with missiles aimed at your allies. Osan provides that second, that edge, that warning shot that says, "We are already here." But life at Osan is not just strategy. It is sacrifice. Families live under the constant echo of sirens and drills. Children walk to school with the weight of possible attack in their minds. Parents tuck them into beds not knowing if the next night will stay quiet. This is not just a base. It is a community living on the edge of tension. And yet, that very tension is the weapon. By moving closer, the United States sends 2 clear messages. To enemies, fear us. We can strike before you even breathe. To allies, trust us. We will stand between you and the threat. That is the real purpose of Osan. It is not about provocation. It is not about pushing for war. It is about creating fear in those who would attack, and creating confidence in those who depend on America's shield. This is deterrence not by distance, but by dominance. Yet another question now rises. Why do these F-16s built decades ago still inspire such fear in 2025? Each F-16 may look small, but it carries a storm inside. One jet alone can haul 17,000 pounds of weapons, missiles, bombs, cannons, enough to tear open the sky. Now multiply that by 31 fighters. A single super squadron equals over 500,000 pounds of destruction. 500,000 pounds ready to launch in minutes. That is not a force. That is an avalanche. But weight is only the surface. These are not the same jets from the 1980s. They have been reborn, each one now fitted with AESA radars, each one shielded with electronic warfare systems, each one linked by advanced communications that tie the squadron into one living network. Old frames, new souls. Across the world, nations struggle just to keep old aircraft alive. Engines fail, parts vanish. Pilots train in machines older than their parents. But in America's hands, the F-16 is no relic. It is a weapon reborn. The doubters once laughed. They said the Falcon was finished. They said it could never compete with modern fighters. But today, the reality screams louder. The Falcon is deadlier than ever, faster to lock, sharper to strike, harder to kill. And here comes the hidden twist. This was never only about the jets themselves. It is about how they are paired. Because the F-16 is the hammer, and every hammer needs a blade. So the Air Force now flies the Falcon side by side with the F-35, one brute force, one stealth hunter. Two generations fused into one kill chain. And that raises the next question. Why would America pair sheer muscle with hidden stealth? In the Pacific, a new strategy takes shape. At Misawa Air Base in Japan, the F-35s arrive. Not just any jets, these are stealth predators. They move unseen. They strike before enemies even know they're there. Meanwhile, the F-16s at Osan bring raw firepower. Brute force, 17,000 pounds of weapons strapped under each wing. Together, they form an alliance of air power. One delivers precision, one delivers power, and when combined, they create an unstoppable 1-2 punch. But this is not only about the machines, it is about the pilots. For the first time, they train in cross operations. 4th generation and 5th generation warriors flying side by side, learning each other's strengths, covering each other's weaknesses. A dance of speed and stealth, a symphony of war. And the message it sends is deafening. To China, to Russia, to North Korea. Any move in the Pacific will invite disaster. Because the skies are no longer contested. They are controlled. Controlled by a fusion of old and new. By squadrons that fight like brothers. By technology that leaves no room for escape. This is dominance not by numbers, but by design. Yet beneath the strength, one question still lingers. Does bigger always mean better? Or could this very super squadron collapse under its own weight? The super squadron is not just about size, it is about tests. Early results already show the difference. Sortie rates climb higher, turnaround times fall faster, more jets take off. More jets return ready to fight again. On paper, it looks like victory, but paper does not tell the whole story. Because behind every launch are the crews. Men and women working through freezing nights, their hands cut on cold metal, their bodies aching under heavy gear. For every 1 hour of flight, there are nearly 3 hours of groundwork, refueling, rearming, checking every bolt, every wire, every system. This is the hidden burden of power. And still, the work continues, because bigger squadrons might finally prove what no one dared believe, that more jets, grouped together, can actually fight more efficiently than smaller ones. The Pentagon is watching every move, every drill, every launch. Because if this experiment works, it will not end at Osan. It will become the blueprint. Every squadron across the Air Force could be reshaped. This is not just one unit. This is the future. But with every experiment comes the shadow of risk. If the super squadron fails, if logistics break down, if stress overwhelms the crews, then the entire Pacific strategy cracks apart. All the power, all the promise, gone in an instant. And that is the real tension, because this squadron is more than planes. It is the test of a doctrine, a gamble on the next war. And while the world sees only the power, behind the scenes, someone always pays the price. So the question remains, behind all this force, who carries the heaviest burden? The world sees the jets, but it rarely sees the people. Every super squadron begins with a human cost. Families uprooted, jobs abandoned, schools disrupted overnight. One order, and a whole life is moved. Children leave their friends, spouses leave their work. Hometowns are replaced with concrete barracks and guarded fences, and the shadow of missiles always hangs above. For the airmen, the sacrifice is deeper still. Birthdays are missed, anniversaries forgotten. Fathers and mothers raising children under the sound of sirens. each drill a reminder that one day the alarm might not be practice. And yet, duty calls them back every dawn. Because for every single pilot in the air, there are dozens of unseen crew on the ground. Mechanics, technicians, refuelers, loadmasters, medics. The hidden army that makes the squadron live. Their work is invisible, but their sacrifice is critical. Without them, no jet takes off. Without them, no squadron survives. And here lies the quiet truth. The backbone of America's dominance is not the machine. It is the family that holds together under pressure. It is the unseen crew that bleeds behind the curtain. It is the human factor, the one element that cannot be engineered. The world counts jets, but America counts on people, and their sacrifice is the true edge. But this raises a question far larger than OSAN. What happens if this model spreads worldwide? What happens if every squadron becomes a super squadron? The cost would not just be in steel, it would be in families, in homes, in human lives, and the balance of global air power would change forever. The world is watching, every ally, every rival, from NATO in Europe, to partners in the Middle East, to allies across Asia. All eyes are fixed on the experiment at OSAN. Because if this model works, it changes everything. You don't need to buy new jets. You simply build super squadrons with what you already have. More firepower, more strength, without new budgets, without waiting for new aircraft. That is the hidden power of this design, and the enemies know it. Because size removes weakness. With 31 fighters, you lose one. You still strike with 30. With smaller squadrons, every loss hurts. With a super squadron, the machine keeps rolling, and that terrifies adversaries. Imagine Europe facing Russia, not with endless money, but with smarter squadrons, fewer resources, greater punch. That is the promise of this model, and that is why the Pentagon calls OSAN more than a test. It calls it a prototype, a glimpse of the future. This is no longer just about one border. This could be the birthplace of a global revolution in warfare. But question remains. Full operations begin. The Super Squadron is no longer theory. It is reality. More than 1,000 airmen now live inside this machine. More than 1,000 families carry its burden. They shop in the same markets. They walk the same crowded streets. They wake each morning under the shadow of sirens. Daily life is a blend of hope and fear. Hope that strength prevents war. Fear that one wrong move starts it. This is the dual life of OSAN. And yet, the presence changes the map. For allies, the skies feel safer. They see America standing close, not retreating, but advancing. For enemies, caution creeps in. Every plan must now account for 31 Falcons ready to rise. Every strike risk answered in minutes. This is deterrence in living form, a promise written not in words, but in wings. Because the message is not subtle, not to retreat, not to step back, but to stand forward with resolve. And yet, here lies the twist. This is less about fighting a war, and more about preventing it. The squadron itself is the warning. Its presence says, do not test us. Do not gamble with fire, because the answer will come fast, and it will come heavy. Not an invitation to battle, but a promise of strength that keeps the battle away. The hidden truth is finally clear. It is about reshaping the balance of power across the world. The F-16s, once dismissed as old, now stand as the future backbone of air power. Not because of what they are made of, but because of how they are used. This is the twist. True innovation does not always come from shiny new machines. It comes from new thinking, from daring to break rules that lasted for 70 years. And the real cost is not measured in steel. It is carried by the pilots who risk everything, and by the families who hold the line in silence. They are the unsung heroes of this revolution. And as the skies shift, but here is the reflection. Wars may not be fought with super weapons, but with super units. From OSAN to the wide Pacific, the skies are no longer contested. They are dominated. What once seemed like fragile balance has shifted into clear control. Old frames, new minds, and a strategy bold enough to rewrite the rules of warfare. This is not just about jets. It is about the edge of power. And now, you know the story behind it. But this is only the beginning, because the skies are changing, faster than the world realizes. And tomorrow's battles may be decided before they even begin. If you want more deep dives into the military shifts shaping tomorrow's world, make sure to subscribe. And tell me this, do you think super squadrons are the future of air power, or just the beginning of something even bigger?